Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to be telling you guys, or at least, I don't know, telling, but I'm going to be providing some insight to probably why your damage isn't as high as you think it is when you're bossing or compared to somebody else who's your level. And I think this is something that kind of goes without saying, and people kind of just like accept it, but I'm gonna also try to give potential solutions to each of these issues. But before I begin, I just to say 2022 is here. I'm gonna have a lot of, I guess, guide-like Maplestory content because that's pretty much all I can do now for you guys this year. And if you guys do not want to miss out, make sure to subscribe, turn on the bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. And if you guys want to follow me on social media or more importantly, join my Discord server, we can talk about all things MapleStory, progression, and beyond. All the links are in the description down below. And without further ado, let's talk about probably one of the biggest things that kind of is a part of the game, kind of not part of the game, and that's familiars. So this kind of brought to my attention that a lot of people understand that familiars are very vital to the game, but they don't really have any, and that's because I personally think that the system of obtaining familiars is kind of messed up, especially if you're in the reboot server. And pretty much, familiars just give random potential lines, and you can roll them in regular server, or you can fuse them in reboot in order to get familiars with decent potential lines. As you can see here, this familiar has 40% boss, 40% IED. This one has 50% boss, 2% all stat, and then this one has 30% boss and continuously healing HPMP. Now, getting these familiars in regular server is kind of a pain because you pretty much can only get legendary familiars by cubing them in the cash shop with these things called like red cards or something like that. And they're pretty much just red cubes, um, if on the opposite of steroids. So yeah, red familiar cards. So basically, they have terrible tier up rates. The potential line pools, if you thought for your gear was bad, this is even worse. So not only do you have to tier it up, but you also have to get a good line, which may or may not be extremely costly, especially if you're a free-to-play player. Um, just to give you guys some like pointers, like these familiars probably costed me like $1,000 or $2,000 worth of NX to cube myself, and they all came unique. So just cubing two of them to legendary and then getting these lines probably cost me anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, and I don't even have a third legendary familiar. So it just kind of goes to like how difficult it can be. But at the same time, these familiars are super important because they can give you up to 120% boss damage and IED, and I don't believe there's a cap for attack, but I guess technically, you can only roll so much attack lines, and you'd rather have the boss and IED lines anyways. So I think ideally, for most players, you'd have 3 lines of boss totaling up to 120% boss damage, 2 to 3 lines of IED totaling up to like what? Let's say 90, 90 to 120%, anywhere from there. And then some people, if you get lucky, you'll have a line of attack damage instead of the IED. And if you have those familiars, you are freaking set to go. That character should be your main for sure. Um, but obtaining for these familiars, if you're in regular server, is actually quite difficult, but not impossible. I mean, reboot. So basically, in order to get to the point where you can, I guess, easily farm familiars, you do have to be in the Arcane River. And if I'm correct, they start dropping from Morass. So basically, if there's a set for them, Sphera, and I think Morass. Yeah, Morass. This is Morass, I think. Swamp Badge? I don't know. I can check the list real quick. Swamp Badge, yeah, Morass. So once you have Morass, you can actually farm these familiars just by killing mobs. Now, I'm not quite too sure about the drop rates in Reboot, um, but once you get to those levels, I'm pretty sure you can farm a good amount of these. It will take a lot of time though, especially if you don't have drop rate. What I do recommend instead is to just forget about familiars until level 255, and that's when you're going to spend a majority of your time training in a specific map for most classes, and that's going to be End of the World. Now, once you get to End of the World, you can pretty much, since you're going to be training here for like at least 10 levels, you're going to be farming here a lot anyways. Um, so you can, use the new areas, Celes for training in Esfera instead of Moras, because a majority of the time you're going to be training in Arcana, Esfera, Celes, and then you spend your time split between Moonbridge and stuff. You can get familiars in Moonbridge too and Labyrinth of Suffering, but the amount of time you actually spend training there isn't sufficient to get that many familiars. Of course, if you're already training there, you might as well try. But basically, what you do is you just kill these mobs, and every once in a while, once you get to level 225, because in reboot you can transfer familiars between your characters. 'Cause it's a use item, not an equip item. You just keep farming, and eventually they'll drop familiars. Specifically, I'm looking at these ones right here that I'm circling with my mouse cursor, and then these that are rare. So familiars come in two ranks that are the most common, and that is this gray one. So if I were to loot it, I wouldn't even know what to call it. It's literally just gray, and then blue is rare. You can also get epic and unique familiars, which I've seen drop from bosses before, but I'm assuming is at a ridiculously low rate. I've actually also seen a legendary familiar before, which was kind of weird, and I didn't really know how to process that. But uh, basically, what you do is you farm these familiars, and once you have one or two, you go ahead and use them. So I just want to make sure I have familiar slots. Yeah, I have 100. So I'll say for Baron, I'll use three, right? Now I have these three in my thing. What you want to do, reveal the potential so you get the bonuses for having them out. And then you're going to go ahead. I'm going to actually make a new familiar slot. Just because I don't want to ruin mine. Slot 3, activate. Done. So you'll have your familiars, and this is assuming that you've already farmed enough badge sets so that you can have three familiars, but you can also do this when you have two familiar sets open or even just one. So basically what you want to do, you equip 1, 2, 3, and you're going to want to save them. And then you're also going to want to summon them. So now that they're out, you can see at the top left of these familiars, there's a level thing. Basically, in order to increase that level, you pretty much just have to kill mobs. It can take some time. But as you kill mobs, you should see the level of them increase. As you can see right now, they've already increased by like, I want to say that's like a sixth of the bar. And as you keep killing mobs, that level is going to fill up. Now, let me see if I have a totem to speed this up. No, I don't. Okay, that's fine. So once you see the level go all the way up to level 5, I believe is level 5. What you can actually do is combine these familiars. So I have a ton here, but they're all level 1. But as you can see, I have unique ones that are level 5. And I also have an epic one that's level 1. So basically what you can do is you can go to this collection tab and go to fusion. And you can select the familiar you want to level up. And then you just attach onto these and you can fuse them. Um, That will pretty much just fill up another bar. So I need to fill this up to 100. Okay. So under the assumption that these are all done, say they're all max level, you click on the one you want. Mine should be somewhere down here. No? Weird. Where are they? Am I tripping? Why is there... Oh, right here. So you do this, you select all, or select as many as you can, you press fuse. And basically it's going to level up that bar that you see on the bottom. Now once these are max level, you can go ahead and press rank up. And it actually has a pretty decent chance to hit epic or unique rank. If you don't have any usable familiars at all, I highly recommend You get 3 good epic ones first, and at the epic tier you can get boss percent lines up to 30%. So if you have 0 familiars and you farm 3 of them, all of a sudden you have 90 extra percent boss damage. And if you get really lucky, you might end up with a 2-line familiar, and that would be absolutely huge. Um, by doing this, I guess, farming method, you can actually get these familiars up to unique rank. And so after the fact, in reboot, you're pretty much stuck at unique, because I don't believe you can buy um, red familiar cards from the cash shop. So you're pretty much just doing this for an endless cycle of like farming these familiars, leveling them up, and then ranking them up to hopefully get a familiar that's like this, which is pretty useful for some people, which heals HP and MP. This one has item acquisition rate. This one has 7% auto steal. And I don't know if here's one of the familiars that I ended up farming. That has 50% IED, which is super good, 2-line. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty much one of the big things um, that a lot of people overlook, especially when they get to the range of level 230-ish. Especially when you're training and say you train in Esfera on your Kana or whatever, these mobs should drop familiars because there's a familiar set for them. My drop rate might be lower than 1-5, but if you have a lot of drop rate, you shouldn't have a problem with getting familiars. And you pretty much just repeat the cycle as you're training. It's actually a great time to min-max your, I guess like your gains when you're training, even though you will lose out on a little bit of EXP. Oh, as you can see right there, I just got a familiar, boom. Although you will lose a little bit of EXP, I think it's worth it for the chance that you get something that'll increase your damage significantly. Now, you might be asking how significant. So if you look at my stat window right now, you see I'm at 405% boss damage and 93.73 IED. If I were to use this, I instantly go to 525 and 96.24% IED. If I were to plug this into my stat calculator, this is about like 30 something percent final damage. Just from my familiars. And if you guys don't know, final damage, although it's not shown in this window, it's pretty much the equivalent final multiplier for your damage after taking into the account like your gear, your potential, your star force, your buffs, and everything. So it helps an absolute ton. And especially if you have, say, very low percent boss damage, this is one of the ways that you're going to level it up or increase that number without having to cube your weapon, because on your weapon most people are aiming for percent attack and percent boss. You can see here I have 2-line attack, 1-line ID, 2-line attack, 1-line boss, and then 2-line boss, 1-line attack. I'm not going to account for the B pot because reboot doesn't have B pot, but it's more or less the same idea. uh, and yeah, that is pretty much how you're going to increase your damage for familiars. It's also to note that there's also a bunch of other useful lines on familiars, like the item drop that I was showing. There's familiars that have item drop rate. This is pretty important too, increasing item drop rate by a large amount. Um, I'm not sure if the increased meso, not the meso obtained, but the actual line that says increased meso drop by a large amount. I'm not actually sure if that does anything, just because I was never able to test it fully. Uh, but yeah. The next thing we're going to talk about is farm. So for those of you guys who play Reboot, I don't think this applies to you. But in regular server, you can pretty much play this like Farmville-like simulator. You can get a whole bunch of different buffs. You can see right here, item drop rate 5%, damage 1%, strength +2, minion duration, strength +10. There's a whole, and then even the Von Leon one where boss damage has 5. It's actually a very difficult system to go over it in a short video, but basically what you do is you kind of just start off with monsters and you kind of fuse them. Let me see if I have one that's alive. So this one I can extend the life, And then I can release a few of these just so I can show you. So basically what you want to do, you're going to start off with monsters that are significantly lower leveled. Um, what you can do is you go to this on the bottom, this shop thing, and you want to take this mirror to a random farm. And basically you're just going to find a farm that has something, say you're looking for this toy, right? And you want the drop rate, you basically press combine two of them, boom, and it'll spit out a random monster with a higher chance of it being the same rank as like the two that you're combining. You can see right here I got a toy that's A plus, and boom, and you basically just combine and combine and combine until you get an S rank. Now you can do this for other monsters. You can see there's crit damage, 2% damage, 3%. There's a whole bunch of different monsters that can actually benefit your damage. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but it actually helps a ton. There's a book right here where you can search up all the different monsters in the game. So you can see the special mouse gives 50 defense. This gives farm EXP plus 15. And it just it'll give you the recipe to make them if you can. So as you can see right here, combining these two will give you a chance at getting an Awakened Rock Spirit, which gives you plus 5 all stat. This combining these two will give you a chance to get a promote that gives you 2% damage and 5 dex. And you could just go for like trying to get these different um what do they call them? Mobs. Get fusing these different I don't know what you call them, these little monsters to get the stats that you want. You see 4% damage, and if you add them all up, you can actually get a ton of bonus stats, and that's something that people don't typically account for. If you want a guide, I can try to find the Monster Life reboot server and link its link in the description so you guys can learn. But it is a very difficult, not very difficult, but it's just a tedious process in order to increase your damage. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is actually character level and Legion, which kind of go hand in hand. There's a lot of people who don't have AK Legion, and that's understandable. AK Legion takes a long time, but if you can abuse the different leveling events like Mega Burninator, Mega, all the Terra Burning events, you can actually get a ton of levels towards your Legion, and this is important because once you get to 6k Legion, I believe you can fill out 2 of these exterior bricks. Specifically, the 2 that you're going to be trying to focus on is probably going to be crit damage and boss damage. And now once you get towards 8k, you can actually fill out a third outer box. And that's likely going to be IED for some people, maybe buff duration for some classes, maybe even a little bit into critical rate if you need that extra bit to hit 100%. Now, if you just look at my grid bonuses, you can see I gained 35 strength, 5 dex, 5 luck, 5 attack, 20 critical damage, 40 boss, 12 buff duration, and 40 IED. Specifically, the big damage boosters are going to be this ignore defense, boss damage, and crit damage. This is absolutely huge, especially if you are, below or a little bit behind on IED and boss damage. This is pretty much what's going to make up for a good chunk of it. And on top of that, you can actually see my member bonuses on the side too. There's 80 strength, 5 HP. These are all just passive things that you're going to get just for leveling your characters and assigning them to the board. You can see here you get things like skill cooldown, boss damage, buff duration, IED, crit damage, boss damage. All these things, even though it's a tiny, tiny amount, will be very important because they'll add up. Say I didn't have this Legion board and I was on a fresh account, right? I would lose all of these bonus damage stats, and then on top of that, um, you should be leveling characters anyways because of a thing called link skills, where you get these additional things just for playing a character. Some have master level 3, then specifically the ones that you want to level 3 are the ones that, when you get to level 210, it gives you a little bit of a bonus, and then you specifically want it on stats like boss damage, IED. These stack with all the other ones, so you kind of just do them. But if it gives you like damage, boss damage, IED or something, you want to really consider getting that link skill to level 3 just because all you have to do is play the character. Um, and they give you bonuses, and you can have up to 12 link skills. So once you have them all on this board, you can get things like all stats, damage, IED, boss damage, a whole bunch of different stats, as well as utility buffs, right? Like Spirit of Freedom grants you invincibility upon being revived, and you get 8 seconds from this. This is huge, especially if you're doing bosses like Hard Will and are having trouble soloing. 8 seconds for a free DPS every single time you die is absolutely huge and might even be vital to your clear of the boss. Um, and all of that just comes from playing different characters. In reboot, I can understand it's a little more difficult because you can't make a mule gear or whatnot. That's highly why I recommend taking advantage of the Mega and Terra Burning events because it'll get you pretty much free characters to level 150 and 200. And if you have 40 characters at level 150, you get 6k Legion. And if you have 40 characters, whoa, excuse me. If you have 40 characters at level 200, that's 8k Legion, which is pretty much what's considered end game. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Another thing that I could add in about character level is that the higher level you are, the more node slots you're gonna get. Um, and a lot of people don't really look at this, but imagine all of these buffs. Say Advanced Blessing gives me 20 attack that I wouldn't have. Sharp Eyes gives me 10 crit and 8 crit damage that I wouldn't have if I didn't have enough slots. Something like Speed Infusion that just lets me attack faster I wouldn't have. And a lot of these buffs you kind of have to sacrifice because you need to prioritize your main skills because that'll give you huge final damage percent, as well as your class specific skills that are absolutely vital because for some cases it's your burst. In some cases these are like extreme buffs for your party or yourself, and you can only access them through your nodes, so you have to have them. So if you don't have enough slots, you have to sacrifice, smaller buffs that'll add up over time. Like say you can't have weapon aura because you just don't have the space. That's final damage right here. You can see 6% final damage that you're missing out on. Um, and all these little things add up. But yeah, that is going to conclude my video. I hope you guys learned something. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions. And as always, subscribe. I'm gonna have a lot of new content this year, and hopefully it's gonna help a lot of you out, especially those of you who are having trouble progressing in Maplestory. Um, I'm also gonna try to revive my. I guess I don't want to say revive my solo progression. It's just I want to be able to explain how to get from X to Y rather than actually doing it, and just giving tips along the ways just to make it easier for a lot of people. Because I actually do like enjoy playing this game. I just think it's a big time commitment that I no longer have, so I might as well help you guys out who are, getting back into the game, finding things difficult, and want to, not fast track, but kind of speed up your progression. But yeah, that's gonna be all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace!